So, self-love and the narcissist. And I got to thinking, if the partner of a narcissist had a Christmas carol book or a holiday carol book, it would have 3 songs. The first one would be "'Tis the Season." You know that song? 'Tis the season to be awful. Fa la 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 la. Okay, what else? Her second song, you know the song "Silent Night"? Her song would go, "Silent treatment night, holy cow night." And her third song in her songbook, you know, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Hers would sing, "It's beginning to look a lot like chaos. Every room I go." So the question then becomes, what is it about the holidays that makes the narcissist turn into a horrible human being? And there's actually a reason why the narcissist relapses or goes what I call episodic during this time of year. The reason that I call it episodic is because for the most part, unless they're a psychopath or even a sociopath, they're not in that state of mind all the time. That they can slip out of it and enter into a bit of a benign period, and we start thinking, oh, am I imagining that happened? Was it really so bad? Our abuse amnesia kicks in, and we can't remember all the things that took us to the edge of insanity, and then so we find ourselves staying year after year after year. Anybody relate to that? Yeah? Okay, so there is one thing though for sure. We never know what's going to cause that person to go episodic. So we kind of walk on eggshells, we kind of can size up a situation, but 9 out of 10 times I would say that we're broadsided. That all of a sudden, boom, there they are, they're episodic, we're on the floor, and we don't know what happened. Well, the good thing about the holidays is I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time that if you have somebody narcissistic in your life, they will go episodic at the holidays. And when you understand that's just the rules of the game, then you're able to prepare yourself so that you don't get derailed. Because no matter what, you can never change the narcissist. You can only control how you respond to it. So I'm going to talk about tonight what's happening in that narcissistic mind that's allowing them to go episodic or prompting them to go episodic. And how do we cope with it so that our holidays don't go dark when they go dark? I remember, as I think back on my relationship with my ex-husband, is every time Christmas would come around, I would literally come, November 1st after Halloween, almost like take a deep breath and hold on till the season was over. And I literally did not know how to enjoy the holidays, because I'll backtrack just a little bit. Growing up, though my father has narcissism as well, but that wasn't the focus of it. But in our family growing up, there was always like a little bit of a depressed environment around the holidays. And I'm half Latina. My mom is Latina. My father is American. And so what would happen was there would just be this kind of heaviness that came into the environment always growing up. I didn't understand what it was for years. Of course, my mother was probably dealing with my father at the time, which I didn't understand that as a child. But as life unfolded, I discovered that my mother was dealing with those episodes from my father. And then on top of it, my mother, who was raised in a very painful childhood of herself, what would happen is that her mother was raised by her uncles and her aunts. And her mother, who was also very narcissistic, that's why she was attracted to my father, who was a narcissist and repeated the whole cycle, remarried, and they would summons her home for the holidays, and every holiday she would go home and get molested and then be sent back. And so she kept the secret for many, many years. And so what happened is that when the Christmas tree would go up, I would witness my mother become very sad. So the holidays always kind of had this sadness about it to me. And then of course, because in the back of my head, my programming said holidays are kind of sad, who do I attract but somebody who not only brings sad into the holidays, but horrific into the holidays? Because we would get on a plane, almost reliving my mother's experience in a different version of the story, go back to Florida, and it would be 7 days of complete chaos and abuse and insanity and abandonment and horribleness. That's the only way that I can describe it. So it wasn't until I was removed from all that the holidays actually became a happier environment for me. So I began thinking about what is it about the holidays that makes the narcissist so awful. And I'm going to repeat one more time, 99.9% of the time, if there's a narcissist in your life, gear up, because they will go episodic. That's the rule of the game. You make peace with that, and you're going to have a better holiday season because you won't be broadsided by it. When exactly it's coming, you can feel them percolating, but for sure it's coming as long as you have it. There's only a 0.1% time that they won't become episodic. You know when that is? When they have found a new fuel source and they're on their best behavior and being the star. Then they won't go episodic, except for the fact that it would probably rub it in your face that somebody is now in love with them and they're happy. So that's just the rules of how the holidays with a narcissist works. So let me tell you a little bit about what happens to the narcissist. So if I were to ask a really clear question, a really clear question, why does a narcissist behave as they do during the holidays? And the answer is twofold. The very first thing is that when the holidays come along, the narcissist, if you understood the narcissistic personality, it's a very complex personality. I mean, yes and no, but I find it complex because they say that out of all the personality disorders, it's the one personality disorder that is the most difficult to heal, if ever. And the reason is, why is that? And the reason that is because they do not have the ability to see themselves as having flaws. Here's the contradiction. Inside of the mind and the heart and the soul of a narcissist, they know something's wrong. They ache. They are in such great pain and ache. So what they do is they go around and they know something's wrong, but their mindset says, but it's not me, so therefore it's them. So what a narcissist does is he or she runs around constantly looking for that person to fix them, believe it or not. They find those of us who are feelers, they attach onto us, and then the reason that it goes from the golden period to the devaluation period is because we are not a God source, we are not a fuel source, we are a human being. And when we stop being able to fuel them, they begin to resent us. That's why it happens. So what happens in the holiday season is that they look around the room and they see everybody who's getting happy about the holidays. And it triggers that voice inside of them that says, why is everybody happy? I cannot be the only one who's miserable here. So therefore, that prompts them to have to punish everyone around them who is happy, because you're destroying my belief system. So that's why it's called a target. They will look at you and they will target in on you, and their goal is to punish you for being happy so that they can stop feeling miserable. I know, it's crazy, huh? But that's what's happening. So the first reason is that they they see a happiness, they understand that it is not within them, and now they're getting very angry because they're not understanding why are they happy and I'm not. And literally what goes through their head is, I have to destroy this system because certainly I have nothing wrong with me. So therefore they're giving me a mirror and I don't want to see that mirror, so I have to break the mirror. Make sense? The second reason, and one of the things that I want to reference is, do you remember when we were kids and we learned that thing about putting down people that said, when you put down people, putting down people is just a way to bring yourself up? Do you remember that saying that when our parents would teach us that? Well, when you put down people, you're putting them down just to make yourself feel better about yourself. This is a classic narcissist. And when they see people who are living the things that they think that are not how they feel the need to destroy you so that they feel better about life. That's why they come after us. So the second thing that happens to the narcissist during the holiday season is, and all of you guys, and think about the narcissists in your life, they have to become episodic, because unlike the majority of the year, minus our birthdays, but this will also explain why they sabotage your birthdays or a special day that you have, is that the holidays is all about everyone. And when they look into the room and they see everyone in their life celebrating, having a sense of happiness, giving attention to each other, they realize, because we are only fuel sources to them, their fuel sources are gone. And this causes anxiety in them because they cannot survive without fuel sourcing off of somebody, panic, and then anger. How dare you stop fueling me? So therefore, I call it kerplunking. The reason that they attack or go episodic in the holidays is because the fuel source that keeps them alive, which is most likely you, has their attention elsewhere. And the only thing that they can think of doing is preserving their fuel source. Now, as a narcissistic relationship progresses, once you pass the golden stage and you're all that, you enter into the devaluation stage. In the golden stage, the reason that they're so in love and crazy in a positive way about the person in their life is because all relationships begin with being in love. All relationships begin with adoration. All relationships begin with us just depositing into each other, right? And when they reach that point that you've already given me that compliment, you've already satisfied my need in that way, and they're just like an addict. They need more and more and more and more. And you might still be doing the same thing, but now you're getting punished for it. Well, what happens is that they learn to get a negative fuel from you. So it's not the adoration, it's you breaking down and crying. And they actually get a high, a feel good, a fill up when they see you broken and crying and stressing out. I know it sounds crazy, but this is literally the personality that you're dealing with. And that's why they do something that I call pitchforking. They'll poke at you and poke at you and poke at you and poke at you. And they're just, all they're doing is they're looking for that tender spot so that you will break and cry. And then they'll say, I am so powerful. That's what goes through their head. So how do they try to break you in the holidays in order to get their fuel source? I've identified 5 different ways. Number 1, they go from pleasant to revolting. And what I mean is, if you've ever been with, and you can see it, have you ever walked into the room or you know somebody that you walk in and you're like, oh, they're in one of those moods. There's that darkness on them. They're cynical. Nothing you do is enough. They have everything negative to say. So one of the ways that the narcissist will try to sabotage and gain control and get the attention back on themselves is to become dark and depressed, to become threatening of suicide, to have the biggest crisis and the problems in the world, to hate everybody around you, to constantly complain about money. Just that old saying, to rain on your parade. So if you have somebody who is narcissistic in your life, become aware that if they start to go dark or behave in that way, and I call it pleasant to revolting, be aware, this person's episodic, and not go along with the story. Number 2, I call it their plan to abandon. Narcissists they're classic either escape artists or abandoners. And the reason that they love to abandon is, first off, they love to abandon so that they can see you break down and hurt and cry and be miserable. That's a fuel source to them. Then it gives them the opportunity at the right time when you're just about insane to come in and take you back in and pick you back up. That's another fuel source to them. Or they're banking on the fact that if they abandon forever, that you're pining and dying over them. And just the thought of that can serve as a fuel source. That's why they don't do proper breakups with dignity and explanation and closure. So how can they abandon? They can abandon in little ways. And one thing I want to sidebar on something. When it comes to the cycle of narcissism, there's the golden period, there's the devaluation period, and there's the discard period. Now, in these 3 periods, you might think of the entire scope of the relationship, but that's not the case. They will have mini cycles within it. So for example, you will be in the relationship, and after the obvious golden stage is over, they'll do things nice enough to get you back, right? To draw you back in, so you're starting to feel maybe it's not so bad, and believing, oh, maybe there is, hope, maybe it was just a bad day, and all the excuses that we go in to protect. It's called cognitive dissonance, just to let you know, it has a name. That's what we do, but I'm not going to go into that. And then it slips back into the devaluating stage, and the devaluating stage doesn't have to be name calling. It can be questioning your character, etc. And then it goes into the discard stage, and the discard stage doesn't have to be that person walking out on you forever and you never hearing from them again. No, in the holidays, it could be when you say, I'm having 10 people over for dinner, can you stop by and pick up the milk? And they forget the milk. This is part of the cycle. So it's just not being there when you need help. They still might be in your house, but they're just not there to help you as what the classic case of a partner is supposed to be. So it's important that you recognize the signs, and rather than go crazy, I wrote it down, I sent you in a text, and right there, when you're in their face and you're asking them, why can't they do that? You know what they're doing? Oh, thank you. When they see you scurried, thank you. Right up their nose into their heart. That's what they're doing. They're getting high off of your fuel source. Another trick that they do during the holidays is they will commit to doing something and then at the last minute cancel.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even you can have them to dinner at your house. They had just arrived, and all of a sudden what they'll do is they will pick a fight over nothing, which is one of the things, and get up and leave and walk out on you, and you're thinking, what are we fighting about right now? I don't even understand what we're fighting about. Or another thing is that they will just simply not show. They will completely physically abandon you. The problem is that they will always come back and make an excuse as to why it was okay or what happened and the aliens came down and blah, 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 and some pity story because they are professional victims also. And we end up accepting it, buying into the excuse, only to find ourselves back on the 3-part cycle again. So why would they use this thing called abandonment during the holidays, and what does that represent? Well, what it represents is that narcissists do not like to conform to anyone. And when you have an organized event, an organized dinner, an office party that you need to show up to, a church event, some type of event where there's a structure and we're all going to assimilate as one group and have a kumbaya fun moment, they're going to rebel against that because their ego says, I am much better than any of these people in the room. And so I'm not doing it. So then they end up abandoning us. Any of this making sense?
Yes.
Another, you guys are kind of quiet. Okay, another thing that they'll do is that they will cause something that I call fights over nothing. And the fights over nothing are literally just that. The next thing you know, there's a huge knockdown, drag out. They end up storming out and leaving, and you have no idea why you're screaming and yelling and crying, and you really can't identify it. I look back on my life right now and I'm like, I couldn't tell you what we fought about, but all I know is that we were fighting all the time. We weren't fighting, he was searching for fuel. He needed to push me to the point of insanity to get his fuel. And when I understood that, I was able to bypass, when I saw those fights over nothing and him starting to pitchfork me to try to find what's the area that I can get her to break because my fuel source is going low, I was able to get out of the way and not be taken down by it. Another thing that will happen during the holidays, the way that they'll try to kerplunk you is, and I'm going to give a verbal example. And for those of you who have been to any of the narcissism class, you probably have heard it. I describe narcissism or narcissist as, you know when you go to the fair and there's that game mole and little moles come up and you stand there with your hammer and you just try to see what's coming up and then you need to hit it back down under the board, you know that game? This is what a narcissist does. And that's what we do, is like we pop our head up, and the second they see that we're starting to get our legs and our strength and our joy and our color back, boom, they'll have to slam us down, and that gets them high. And so what we do is that we become that mole. We pop up in different places in life. But that's not life, guys. That's survival. That's copping out on life, and we don't have to live that way. But I think it's a perfect example as to what the narcissistic relationship looks like. So that being said, the fourth area is the way that they'll start to kerplunk you is that they will start the constant criticism. I don't like the lights on the tree. What made you choose that wrapping paper? You're having who over for dinner? You're gonna wear that? This is not the right type of wine. I mean, anything little that they can find to complain about. It's just a way to chip at you, to try to make you feel less than, so that they can chip you down enough to make you to break to get fuel. Anybody relate to that? And finally, they will use the children. And so if they have a way of being able to hostage take the children during the holidays, they will do that, not because they so want to see their children, but because they so want to punish you for either being done with them, for either moving on with your life, for the sake of just punishing you. Because narcissists enjoy punishing people, as sick as it sounds. The other thing you need to know is that they honestly believe that they have the right to do that. That's why you think, come on, you have to have a soul. They actually believe that they're right in doing that because they believe the stories that they have told so many times. So, most important thing, how do we survive this? Well, one of the ways that, and I'll give away the punchline here, one of the ways that we heal from this and the commitment that we have to make to ourselves is not to engage and not to react and refuse to become a fuel source. So the way the way to disarm a narcissist is to not let them get to you. As much as it gets to you, to not let them get to you, to not react into their pitchforking. Number 2, do not reward them. Do not cry. Do not scream. Do not go crazy. Instead, do the exact opposite. That if they call you, oh, you're going to wear that. Say, I know, isn't it fabulously ugly? And doesn't my butt look super big? I love it. It gives you more to hold on to, baby. And walk out. And this is how you handle them and diffuse them, because all of a sudden they'll be like, whoa, she's got my game. And it's actually fun. It actually heals you when you're able to do that. And number 3, in spite of what they do, commit to keeping your joy. Commit to yourself, I will enjoy, which means to live in joy, this holiday season. This holiday season will be done according to how I want it done. I'm not going to be shopping on the 22nd. That doesn't bring me joy. Now, what you have to do in order to do that is you have to do an inventory. You have to sit down and say, and it's going to be a foreign question, if I experience the holidays according to how I would like to experience the holidays, what does that look like? I don't want to be with these people. I don't even like that thing that I have to cook every single year because, okay, if he wants that meal dish, tell him to cook it. If you don't like it, don't cook anything you don't want to. Don't listen to any song you don't like to. Don't put on any ugly sweater that you don't want to. Don't put a single bulb on your tree that you don't want to. Anything that has a bad memory, put it away. And if he says, where's the reindeer? I don't like those reindeer. I don't want to put them out. Why not? I like those reindeer. Because we got in a fight over nothing over those reindeer. And I don't like looking at them anymore. And I'm not going to miss one more holiday because life is too short. And you call them directly on it. So if you want them, you can put them up yourself. You can hang them in a tree, you can throw them in the trash. I don't care. To me, they don't exist anymore. If they put them back out, that's fine, but you've already made that statement. I don't like them. And every time he looks at it, he might think, she doesn't like it. Who cares? You're free. You've gone on record. So those are the 3 ways that you can protect yourself. Do not reward them. Do not allow them to fuel source off of you. Here's your memo from Normal Land. Narcissists only win when others are losing. So your job is to walk in that self-love and give yourself, no pun intended, a winning holiday season, which means to look at this season and say, if this person wasn't in my life, how would I really enjoy the season? What would I eat? Where would I go? How would I spend my evenings? What time of day would I celebrate the holiday? Who would I want over? What do I want to serve? Make a choice that as of this year, and it's still early enough, make this season yours. Let them merge into your world. And if they don't like it, that's okay. But everybody doesn't have to like everything about us. But you might be able to start keeping your joy in the holidays. Because this year, you're never getting these moments back. So be responsible with the life that you've been given and protect your joy because you deserve it. I love you all. I hope you enjoyed the message and let it be a good holiday.